Alright guys, welcome back to VALORANT News. Big drama going down with the kickoffs just about to get underway in the Americas, with FNS giving a serious take on the state of the game, the state of Riot Games, and the decision they have made again to put a new agent into the game right before the start of the season. FNS says that he's complained about this for years, does not seem to be getting any better from the Riot Games side, and says from his perspective it's ridiculous that Riot keep behaving in this way. Do other pros feel the same way? Could there be any reaction to this, with FNS also confirming this will be for sure his final year competing? Very much enjoyed to your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I would greatly appreciate it. Starting I thought with a couple of things on Sentinels. I thought they'd done a great job of this. Again, it just shows that Sentinels are a little bit diffy when it comes to some of these other franchises, at least teams in the Pro League. Because this year, the SEN Bundle, right? Like the bundles in general are just not quite as exciting. They were exciting last year. I like the Sentinels design, don't get me wrong, it's good. But the cards aren't as good, it isn't quite as exciting, and I did wonder whether Sentinels' success last year with the bundle sales, certainly from Zelsys, might calm down a bit. But to be fair, they've still done a great job, I thought, of actually making this interesting. We've got some content such as this. There was also this from Zelsys. They've come up with this idea. If anyone in the community works hard to sell the bundle on their behalf, they will get a signed jersey. Now, it's not like they're going to say, all right, here's your tracking number and you can track it. It's more just vibes, basically. But yeah, it is an interesting approach. As Zelta says, Jordan Belfort, sell the bundle, send corporation business takeover. So, you know, anyone is free to work hard on Sentinel's behalf to sell the bundle, and if they do it well, they'll get a signed jersey. This is pretty funny from Rob. How do we know how much effort the youth put in? But the For You algorithm will keep watch. So if people see you promoting the bundle on like the For You page, then of course Sentinels might send a signed jersey your way. Now, as I say to the team every morning, if selling the bundle isn't everything at work at C9, which I thought was pretty good, this of course a reference to what we discussed a couple of days ago, where Cloud9 seemingly are not paying their players any money for selling the bundle, and therefore who is incentivized to do it? Basically nobody. So good luck actually making any sales. So Zekin says, work at C9, very funny, please re-sign me next year. And even it seems Zekin's dad is getting in on the mix as well to try and ensure that Zekin can keep his spots. Maybe Zekin's dad wants the signed jersey because you know, he's dropped the hashtag by the SEN Bundle. So thought this is all rather good going. We've got plenty else to discuss as well, starting with FURIA. This is very unfortunate for FURIA because they've put together a nice roster, I thought, this season, given the circumstances. Some good talent there. I kind of like the way that it was looking, and there was some promise for FURIA to maybe do some damage at the start of the season. I think some people think that MIBR maybe have the highest ceiling, given they've got Aspas on the team, but FURIA, you know, they put together something which could have been better than Loud this year, certainly was an opportunity, but unfortunately for them, they're running into visa issues. And this is, again, I would argue, another reason why having the Americas split as it is a problem and continues to be a problem, right? I'm not sure there's a good solution here. But at the end of the day, we have 4 leagues around the world. We have the Americas, we have EMEA, we have the Pacific, and we have China. Now, you know, there is a world in which China and the Pacific could have been combined, and that could have been an option. On some level, I feel like that's kind of what's happening here with the Americas. Now, I'm not saying that if there were to just be, you know, 10 teams, 12 teams just in South America, Brazil, Latin America, that would be a particularly strong league. But I do think there are lots of issues having it combined. There's certainly enough talent, I think, in North America to make it work on that level. And obviously, when there was only a certain amount of teams selected from North America in the first place, that was very controversial with the decisions that they made. So I'm not saying this is necessarily going to change, or maybe even should change, but it just causes lots of issues for especially the Brazilian players, because they've got to be based out of LA. That's a problem in the first place, and secondly, it's a problem when it comes down to getting visas sorted, because it seems like FURIA did everything they needed to do. They, you know, they have the lawyer in place, they've gone through the requirements and the procedures that other teams have gone through, but apparently their visa official just wasn't interested. Based on our experience, it became clear that the agent responsible for analysing the FURIA process does not have an in-depth understanding of electronic games, as he even questioned questions the relevance and dimension of the championship, as well as the need for training. They'd initially sent this proposal to, like, I don't know, the Border Patrol, basically, the visa, like, for people who approve them, I don't know, the agents, and this hasn't gone to plan. So I don't know what's going to happen next, but the reality is playing with their full roster is not going to happen. And yeah, the latest discussion was from the article that I got this from that they are going to have to make changes. Obviously, it's very regrettable, but they've confirmed that substitutes will be coming in for their kickoff games in just a couple of days' time. Another update on this type of stuff, the Stage 2 Grand Finals weekend in the Pacific this year is going to be held in Tokyo. Of course, the scene of Fnatic's famous victory at Masters Tokyo back in 2023. So yeah, a return to Tokyo for Valorant. Great to see that. Of course, you know, doing Bangkok this year, doing Tokyo this year, doing Madrid this year, among others. I think it's Paris for the World Championship. Pretty big deal as well. Riot Games also, speaking of the Pacific, are working on a challengers database. We know we've got the player contract database in various regions. In the Americas, we see updates to it relatively frequently. Working on one for challengers is an interesting idea. Whether this is going to be rolled out elsewhere, I guess time will only tell. But let's talk about what's going to happen in the kickoff in a couple of days. Apex, they make their debut against Gentlemate. Of course, it's Floor's debut as well with the team. Very excited to see how that roster gets on. There was some questions, as Rocket Buddies explains, why they are allowed to bring in Odorous, right? Because they already have an import, right, technically, to their roster. But actually, it turns out that Floor doesn't count because as a Game Changers player, there is no restrictions on imports to give the Game Changers player a better opportunity. So there's no region lock on GC players, basically, that Challengers players normally have. So interesting as to whether, you know, you could consider, all right, if GC players are getting treated this way, should every player maybe, you know, should the region lock disappear? It's a question, but like, obviously they wanted to incentivize as much as possible some sort of growth from GC up into tier 2, up into tier 1. So that's why that roster is going to be possible. But I've got to talk about what FNS had to say yesterday on Teho coming into the game. No doubt, for those that have played him and seen clips of him over the last few days, he's a strong agent. He will get some use and some play time at the tournaments coming up at the kickoffs. That shouldn't be much of a surprise, and it's been confirmed for the EMEA kickoff, he's available. For the Pacific kickoff, he's available. For the Americas kickoff, he is available. Now, this is what FNS had to say. We'll come back to this clip kind of towards the bottom, or not this clip, but the statement that he makes at the end. He does discuss on his final year as well. So I'll link this article fully. I'm not going to go through every single moment of this, really. But yeah, he was asked the question, are you going to continue after the 2025 season? And he says, yes, this is definitely my last year. He also talked a little bit about Chet. I thought was interesting, right? Because they changed the coach of their team this year, NRG, maybe somewhat controversially, right? Because they could have signed maybe Potter, as we discussed yesterday. They went for Bonker instead. But I thought this is interesting. I think Bonker gives me a lot of freedom to call the way that I want. Not to say Chet didn't, but Bonker does it even more. It's easier to get into the flow of the game when I can call things off intuition sometimes. The biggest difference between them is the energy level that Bonker brings. Chet was always level-headed and very calm, which, you know, it's interesting because you'd think that's a bit of a compliment, and, you know, it depends on the situation, right? But being calm and stoic and everything like that can have its value, but FNS believes that in a team environment, it actually is better to be the other way around. He says this was sometimes detrimental to the team's moods. With Bonker, on days where players aren't in the best mood or aren't happy, he's always the person with the highest energy in the room. That's a big deal because we feed off the energy a lot. If you're having a bad day or morning, his energy naturally cheers you up. So thought that was quite an interesting assessment, really, of Chet's style. That he's very much, you know, Chet's pretty business focused, as in, this is how I want you to play the game. You know, I'm not here to hype you up, I'm here to get the best out of you type thing. And I get that, but maybe Bonker, at least for this set of players, is just a better fit fundamentally. The other key point, though, was, of course, on Teho, because Teho's in the game, he's allowed, and, you know, as we see here, if you had the chance to try him out, yes, we've played with him. I'm not going to disclose whether we're using him or not, but obviously he's got a very good kit as an initiator, extremely versatile. We've come up with some ideas. We'll see how things go. But obviously the question then was, should this even be possible? Now, to be fair, all the players are going to give you an answer like this. Most of the fans are probably going to say, brilliant. Bit of chaos, bit of like, you know, who knows what's going to happen, who's going to use him to the best advantage. you know, from my side, I'm down to see it. If I was a player, I think I'd be frustrated because I've been practicing for months and now I've got to change up my whole compositions potentially. But also there's an argument to say, are the best teams the teams that adapt the quickest and the most effectively to a new meta? Maybe that's an argument. But FNS says, I think it's crazy. It's ridiculous that this keeps happening. I've been very vocal about it on my stream. I've said it multiple times, told my manager to tell Riot as well. I've done everything in my power to make these people, I like the way that he says these people almost with a bit of, you know, vitriol, understands that from a competitive point of view, from a player first perspective. It's just incredibly difficult to accept that there's a massive update like this one, or like this, 1 week before the season starts. I think any player would agree with me. It just shouldn't happen. In the end, we'll deal with it. It is what it is. But Riot really needs to work on changing the timing of these updates. I understand that sometimes things don't go as planned and schedules shift, but they need to consider our perspective as well. If they absolutely have to release an agent, at least wait until the next tournament to allow him, or give us a month to adapt or whatever, so we can get the best out of him. My opinion would always be the same. It is not viable. It's not good to add an agent a week before the season begins. I don't think any pro player would ever be happy about it. We're all sitting here practicing for a month, trying to win, and then suddenly this update drops out of nowhere, and guess what? You're playing with him in the kickoff. So now you've got a week to figure it out. Good luck with that. It takes away from the competitive integrity. Most players won't be okay with it at a competitive level because we care so much about what we do, and when something like this impacts our performance due to time constraints, it's out of our control, but it is something Riot can control. Hopefully in the future it doesn't happen again. So yeah, quite the statement really from FNS, I thought. Pretty well put from a player perspective. As a fan, I think my perspective is probably slightly different, but I do understand what he's saying, and I think the Bangkok tournament doesn't kick off until something like the 20th of February. So hypothetically, if you said no Teho for the kickoff, but obviously Teho's allowed at Masters Bangkok, the players I think would be happy with that. But yeah, I think for the fans, I'm down to see some of the chaos unfold. So very much interested in your thoughts on all of this stuff in the comment section below. We're definitely going to get more interviews as well from Pedro coming out over the next few days. I did just want to quickly go through a couple of scrim results here. So VCT Scrims as always has been cooking up some masterclasses. I'll just quickly scroll through some of them for you guys last night, such as Ambrosia, that Screwface and the guy has played a couple of games, one of which G2 16-2 YFP is a pretty big deal, was against LEV. So LEV have been scrimming a lot, and you know, they've been losing a lot, but as VCT Scrim says, I swear to God I'm trying so hard to get LEV winning a screenshots, but it's not possible, right? They're down 8-9 here, they're down 11-8 just after that, but then shortly afterwards they played Ambrosia and they were actually up 5-4. So we do officially have a screenshot of them winning a scrim. So yeah, that's pretty much where it's going to be left, I think, for today. Here they were again, 11-7 up. So it is possible for Leviathan to win a scrim. Very much interested to your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care, and I'll see you next time.